Welcome to Jacket Jockeys with Justin.
And me, the Cabin Thumper.
Oh, it's the Cabin Thumper. We didn't see you a lot this episode.
That's true, but mention was made of me.
But mention was made. It's true. It's true. This was, it was kind of, catch up, reconvene, reconnoiter, we needed... have people tell other people things.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
They even had a town hall meeting. I think we talked about that.
I'd like to attend all of their town hall meetings. But not if they're all as annoying as this one was.
Yeah, they did make it as annoying as possible.
I mean, I guess town hall meetings are annoying. Jade had such a great line that I couldn't agree with more, that any meeting with more than 3 people is a waste.
Yeah, people were talking about it, and there were some spoilers that there was going to be a town hall meeting, and people are all excited. It feels like they wrote it in a way to be like, you want a town hall meeting? Here's what it's going to be like. Are you happy now?
Happy now.
Are you sure you want this?
Yeah.
Isn't this just annoying? Don't you just hate this?
We didn't really...
Aren't these people the worst?
Yeah, democracy is terrible, and that is why it's so good that our own will not last for much longer.
Oh God.
Oh God. Sorry, too real.
Yikes.
It was funny. So we did not get to hear Tabitha's accounting of what happened.
One of my frustrations, definitely.
Yeah, but this is just a TV thing, because the writer is not going to waste precious time having characters recount things that we the viewers witnessed, even though I understand your desire to hear how they would characterize what happened.
Yeah, and specifically how Tabitha thinks about it. I think it's clear more or less from the context, and I'll say more about that when we get there, but nonetheless, there's some other specific things that were not said that I want to bring up. That I found kind of frustrating. Yeah. And it feels like the writers are stacking the deck here. It's almost like the writers are like the people in charge of the From place. And they're like rigging the game to disappoint us and to be like, oh, this is what you wanted? Okay.
So the writer is the person who talked to Jim over the radio. Yeah. That was a writer.
Yeah, that was a writer.
Yeah.
That was a writer, exactly. Because they knew they were about to write the house to collapse.
Stan Lee from Beyond the Grave said that about From. He said that whatever happens in the From places, whatever the writer wants.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, so my thing in that vein is that, as I have already alluded, there's a line about how there's something else in the cabin area, and it thumps around, and we wondered this.
Thumpin'.
We, right, the thumpin' that thumped. We talked about this previously. Are we meant to think that it's the same, that it's the monsters that we've seen elsewhere? They're just not going in for some reason. This episode confirmed that they at least think, which is to say Kenny thinks it's something different.
Yeah, he definitely didn't act like it was just a monster.
Yeah, which is to say that we are supposed to believe that it's something different.
Yeah.
And my prediction there is that they're just going to sit on that until next season.
I think they'll either sit on it until next season or later this season. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of obvious since they didn't do anything with it.
So you're not really like putting... I'm just saying, I think there's a chance they'll address it this season. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
But I do agree that, like, it was a punt. Actually, most points in this episode were punts.
Punt points.
Like, they punted a lot. Everything where I was like, oh yeah, it's like, yeah, we're gonna delay that.
But some significant things happen. You talking about like the
yes. I don't know 100% what you're gonna say.
Yeah, what did you think I was gonna say?
I was
we'll say it on 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. The ventriloquistami.
Yeah. That's what it was. 100%. Because I was worried, right? I think I specifically said it, that like Victor's dad getting back is gonna derail this thing. And it fucking did. That's exactly what happened.
It did, but some things, some progress was made in this episode, and something that you were particularly excited about happened, which is that someone, specifically Victor's dad, finally brought up the fact that there is a sign for a motel.
Yes,
there is a
you're right.
swimming
You're
pool
right.
for a motel. There is
but no motel.
motel.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with what happens in the end of this episode. So if you are, for any reason, like, watching along, thinking that we are going to talk about these scenes in order, which we do sort of, stop, because there's a spoiler, which is at the end of the episode, when we find out that the faraway tree has sent Dale into the swimming pool.
Mm-hmm. Like the side of it.
The side
in
of the
a bad
pool.
way. Not just dropped him in the middle, but
yes.
He's like embedded in the pool wall.
Again, you really should watch the episode before
Please
listening
do
to
watch
the podcast.
the episode. If you're not watching the episode, I mean, God bless, but what are you doing with your life?
If you are listening to this and you are interested in listening to us talk about other things that you don't watch or engage in, let us know. There are a lot of things that you may not have a clue about that we could go on and on
that we
about.
could talk about it in great detail and to great depth.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's interesting. Do you want to elaborate that point later or now?
I could. Maybe I don't really know how to articulate it, but I'll give it a go later.
Okay. All right. I'll try to prompt you when we get to that point. I actually forgot about that. Mainly because, like, although I am glad they pointed it out, at the same time, part of me feels like it's a throwaway. Part of me feels like it's kind of like that scene where they had Christy talking about the truck that's overturned in the swimming pool. Like, oh yeah, who was that truck? Oh yeah, it was Bobby or whatever they said.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, it just feels like it's like they're just acknowledging a thing that they hadn't acknowledged yet, but like I'm not clear that it really means anything.
It might not mean anything, but I guess what I would say is I think the main reason they mention it is because the swimming pool is going to be relevant.
Yeah,
in this episode.
You're right. About that,
so they're reminding us about the swimming pool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
but I do think the fact that there's not a motel there is a deliberate decision.
Yeah, I agree.
And so whether they had in mind what that was going to mean when they first started out on the show or not, I have long had this hunch that there is some connection between the faraway trees, the fact that people who show up here have come from all different places, and that they see a downed tree as the signal that they've landed in this place that they can't get out of, and that items that have gone missing at least a couple of items that go missing seem to show up on the island. That's why I will never stop calling it the island.
Yeah.
So I guess I sort of didn't wait to elaborate. The bracelet.
Actually, I should add the bracelet to a list of things that were not addressed.
The bracelet was not addressed. Actually,
that's part of Tabitha's
subset.
Story that I would want her to characterize.
So that was disappointing. That was disappointing to me because right before the car gets hit, and indeed the reason ostensibly for the car accident, and I say ostensibly with meaning, and I can come back to that, but ostensibly the car accident comes about as a result of the fact that she loses confidence in the reality of what she is experiencing when she sees the bracelet in the glove compartment of Victor's dad's car. And the accident, and then ending up back on the island, derails that plot line. There has been she has expressed no skepticism since about the reality of what she saw. And so having her now, I don't think the town hall meeting is the right place for her to talk about that, but I do want to hear her talk about that at some point.
Yeah, and Henry kind of brushes by the point too, like the way he talks about what happened and the crash and stuff. Like he sort of talks about it as though that moment didn't occur, And so I don't know if they're just trying to dodge it, but to me it's like, okay, I believe that she now, because she ended up back here, I believe that she now believes that she was actually in the real world.
I agree.
She's gone back on that. But then the question remains, what was the bracelet? What's the deal with the bracelet? Like, you know, and it's like sort of unacknowledged.
Yeah, did I already say this in a previous podcast that I want a scene where, I don't know, for some reason I'm like, Tilly should do this, but in another world it's like they're just like looking through old magazines and they realize that actually that bracelet isn't that distinctive. There was like, you know, like for a while everybody was making those macrame plant hangers and like everybody just has the same stuff on their Etsy board. Like, so this would be pre-Etsy, I guess, but like or, not Etsy, Pinterest. Pinterest. But it's like, yeah, okay, you made him like a friendship bracelet. This was like, there was a 17 magazine tutorial in 1991 about how to make your boyfriend a bracelet that he would wear. And guess what? You guys just both looked at that same tutorial. And it was like a throwback style, and so that's why Miranda knew about it. Mm-hmm. Don't you remember how big the 70s were in the 90s?
Hey, they were big. I was big into the 70s and the 90s, so
that was little me.
Oh.
Anyway, what are we talking about? Is this a macrame podcast?
Yeah,
is this our
this is
podcast?
Welcome to Macrame Jockeys. We're gonna lead you through audio descriptions of
macrocast.
First
you make
macreations,
this knot. Macreation, I will. First you make this knot, then you make that knot, then you make this knot, then you make that knot.
Hey, you couldn't have described it better.
I know.
Anyway.
I literally couldn't have.
Yeah, so I have more to say about that, but I think I'll save it for when we get there.
Okay, I will. I sense that you want to get into the episode. I just want to say one more thing. I'm gonna say that Sarah's redemption is complete, thanks to the situation that Victor is in, and the fact that now the whole town has somebody else to hate.
Oh yeah, that does help. Yeah, and like she didn't really have, you know, she didn't do it because, you know, she was hearing voices or whatever. You know, I feel like it was more like her decision, you know. Sarah was told. It was
an accident, though.
It was an accident, and I'm not saying that but what I'm saying is that Sarah was told by voices to do those things. She did not independently decide to do those things. So I do feel like that is relevant. I agree that, like, also the fact that it was clearly, she clearly did not intend to shoot Nikki through the window. So yes, that is certainly relevant. But my point is just that it was her decision to fire the gun.
Yeah,
she wasn't told by some mysterious voice that
if you do that,
shoot,
then everybody will go
then
home.
you can go home. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so to me, that's at least part of why Sarah's redeemable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it kind of makes sense to put her with Victor because in a way, like, he's a marginalized figure as well.
Yeah.
He's sort of isolated himself from other people for the most part, you know, and so like there's a logic to, like, Sarah's someone that, you know, he could talk to, and also that she could talk to him and he won't judge her the way other people do. Right. I don't know. It's like it makes sense. I can see why they'd want to do it.
Yeah, sort of outsiders together.
Yeah, exactly. They get some nice moments out of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we dive into the scenes?
Okay,
so we're starting off. Oh, I meant to mention, sorry, this is season 3, episode 5, The Light of Day. That's the name of the episode. Just so you know. So yeah, you know, actually, not to delay it some more, but I was thinking about how.
I just want to say we're recording this outside to enjoy the last days of beautiful weather, and we're being circled by a crow right now.
Oh, is that a crow?
That is a crow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're not driving, so I'm sure we're fine.
That's true. Well, and it's only one. So if the situation intensifies, we'll let you know.
We'll keep you posted. Yeah, so I was just gonna say, oh, now I forgot.
Oh no.
What was I gonna say? I wanted to say something else, but I forgot.
Light of day.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else. Yeah, it's gone.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, anyway, maybe I'll think of it later, or maybe I won't. So let's just start the episode. I just remember what my point was. My point was that I was thinking hard about it, and I think, and tell me if I'm forgetting something, but I think the only really supernatural thing that happens in this entire episode is the thing with Dale in the tree.
Yeah.
You know, there's no monsters. There's no,
there's no
calls
visions
from Thomas. There's no visions.
Yeah.
There's no, you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
It's interesting.
No monsters.
I was just thinking, no monsters. I was just, the light of day made me think about that because it's sort of like the day after. And I was just thinking about how, like Walking Dead had this thing where you had to see zombies in like every fucking episode. Mm-hmm. And it gets tedious, and I was like dreaming of the day, when they would like do an episode without the monsters, and
your dream came true.
Or without the zombies is what I mean for Walking Dead. And
that
so
dream will never come true.
The point I'm just making is that like I'm glad this is a show where they don't have to have like a particular thing in every episode as a formula. And they can just do an episode that's like pretty much on the level the whole time, just totally grounded, like as grounded as this show ever gets.
Yeah.
And so anyway, like even though they're talking about supernatural stuff, of course, but I think it's
no, that's a good point.
I think it's interesting if that's the case. Okay, so that's what I want to say, and now I will move on. All right, so we pick up basically right where we left off last time. They're bringing Randall into Colony House. They clear the way. Marielle comes in, not quite sure what to do, but she wants to stitch his face because his face has been broken open. Hopefully it'll be just like Van on Yellow Jackets, right?
Yes,
all y'all love Yellow Jackets, right? Jacket jockeys, hello.
Yeah.
Season 3 can't come soon enough. Anyway, she was fine, right? I mean, so if she was fine, surely like people with actual training,
apparently all you need are blankets,
can do better.
Everything, it's like, what do you need? Blankets.
Yeah. It's
Bring
all
me
about
more
blankets. So anyway, she wants to stitch his face. Randall starts fighting back. Boyd restrains him, and then Randall yells.
That goes over really well.
Randall yells at Boyd that he left him out there. And, I mean, we all expected that to be a thing. It's interesting that it's not really a thing in this episode. Like, Randall is basically just lying in bed suffering for the rest of the episode. We briefly look at him a couple times, but this is pretty much it. There's only lines he has in the entire episode. So I get why they open it up here, but this actually isn't too relevant for the rest of the episode. It's kind of just establishing what they did with Randall after and getting him bestowed. So
I kind of like that because in reality, he wouldn't just out the gate have the capacity to be, creating that kind of conflict. That will come. But...
It's clearly a time bomb, though, and I think like once he heals, like it's going to be a thing, and we'll have to deal with that in a later episode. Oh well. So then we move into credits, and then we go with Boyd waiting outside the infirmary as Kenny and Jade arrive, and with Christy unable to walk, so they're back from the cabins. Marielle takes her inside. Boyd stays out with Jade and Kenny. They wonder what happened, seeing the ambulance there. Boyd tells them, basically. We find out Boyd knows what happened with Tabitha. I guess they had a conversation off screen about what happened. But they're going to have a meeting later in the diner about it. And Jade runs off.
Yeah, as soon as he hears Tabitha's
like,
back.
What? Say what?
No, it was as soon as he hears she went through a tree. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah. Gotta go.
I love Jade's energy.
Gotta go.
He's so.
No, I mean Jade.
Fun.
See, like Jade is. It's interesting. Jade is sort of taking on that Locke / Saeed thing where It's actually better than Law because it doesn't at least
He's
seem
not
like
insufferable.
It's because of like what's broken inside him.
Right.
It seems like he's actually trying to figure it out for like general reasons.
Yeah, well, unlike
know?
Boyd, he doesn't want to stay here forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little sarcasm in case you didn't catch it.
I did catch it. Yeah, so I think for the audience, at least for the part of the audience that cares about the mysteries and stuff, Jade is a great character because it's satisfying to have someone care about the things we care about. Like, oh, what is this about? What do these things mean? Why is this here?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't we be like thinking about this?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be talking? And also rejecting the meeting. Doesn't give a shit about the meeting. That's a waste of time. Why even bother? And of course he's right.
Yeah.
Nothing good comes out of the meeting. Yeah. So it's like
it was probably necessary but doomed to fail.
Yeah, totally.
Because if you don't have that meeting, then people like the rumor mill will just go out of control. People like Dale are gonna do that thing anyway, and it's just gonna this is the real thing about democracy.
It's not as good as you might think.
It's better than the alternative.
Yeah, but the alternative's real bad, so that doesn't mean it's great.
No,
anyway.
Exactly. I do like the Jade Tabitha team.
Yeah.
Jade has had a few teams since his arrival.
Yes.
I think he was briefly with the kid, right? Ethan,
yep.
Yeah. That was kind of funny. Obviously with Tian Shen, that was a really touching, lovely and funny team up. Him and Jim was just doomed from the beginning. Jim is so annoying. He is the worst.
He doesn't mesh with Jim that well.
I didn't like Jack and I don't like Jim.
I feel like, I mean,
I did like Jack, but then he got too earnest.
I think
Jim needs to. Here's one thing. Here's my advice to all you men out there. Don't be Jim. Don't always feel like you have to immediately step in and tell people to simmer down when they talk to your wives. That's not cute.
I mean,
would you step back? No, don't do that.
I mean,
it's gross.
Like, I understand the reaction, and I don't disagree. I think Jim, like Jack was totally insufferable at times, and of course Jack was like deeply broken inside, and unlike Lost, like this show, unlike Lost, which invented backstory, by the way.
Oh my god, what an inside joke.
Any of you heard that cast? Oh my god, I lost my mind when I heard that. Anyway,
you're too into this like inside jokes on these podcasts. People are gonna think that you're crazy.
It's all right. It's a little Easter egg for you. A few weeks ago, there was a Fromcast where someone claimed that Lost invented backstory, and it made me laugh. Anyway, so
everybody knows that Shakespeare invented the backstory.
Exactly. Thank you. Finally. So,
actually, there was a backstory in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I was just gonna say that, I know, I'm the worst too. I'm worse than Jim. Anyway,
I didn't say that, and I didn't mean that.
I know, I'm joking. So anyway, I just think the context for Jim, I'm not saying he's reacting the right way, but like, I don't think it's unreasonable for him to be freaked out and to be overprotective given what happened,
Here's the thing.
Women isn't the right
need
word,
men
but...
to protect them, is what I'm
Yeah, I
telling
know,
you.
but like...
This is what I'm telling you.
But you can feel that way about anyone you care about. The dynamic is unfortunate, but I could see, for example, Tabitha reacting that way even if Jim had left and came, I don't think it's totally unreasonable to be like, no, like what? Like, get back off. Like, you just got back. I can understand it on that level. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying, like, I get it.
For
That's
more content like this, check out our hetero relationship advice podcast.
So, yeah, but I agree that, like, Jim is not particularly helpful with anything in this episode,
so I'll just leave it to the listener to decide whose advice they would rather take on this, the woman's or the man's.
And I have no advice. And I do have a specific criticism of Jim to make later in the episode, which I will enumerate when we get there.
Great, I can't wait.
So I'm not like some Jim stan or whatever. I just think like, you know, like on a realistic level, I can get like going to that place in that particular circumstance, even if of course in general, like that's not a great way to behave, obviously. So anyway, that's all.
Yeah, it just might have more credibility if Jim had been better, like, at all since arriving. But, you know, Jim's the one that got everybody's hopes up that a tower on top of Colony House was going to get them home. And then his actions inadvertently resulted in a total destruction of the status quo that was working okay for them.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like maybe we don't need you to say anything at all, Jim.
I don't disagree.
I mean, the writers didn't name you Jim for no reason. No offense to the Jims.
Ouch, sick burn, y'all Jims. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And yeah, the radio thing, I mean, yeah. And he hasn't been real helpful about anything, and so anyway.
Everything he's done has been wrong.
Yeah,
literally
pretty
everything
much.
that he's done since he arrived has been a mistake.
Yeah, so, yeah. But, you know, yeah.
Anyway, this is a little tangent. Okay,
Fair
so
point.
Town hall meeting, not going great.
Okay, so
everybody wants to.
We haven't gotten to the town hall meeting yet. It's just they're just saying they're gonna do it, but Jade runs off. It hasn't happened yet.
Right. I forgot where we were.
Okay, yeah, we're just outside the infirmary.
Mm-hmm.
Jade runs off. Okay, so we'll pick up from there.
Yep.
So Henry, we're in Colony House, is looking through some clothes in a closet. Donna says she sent people to look for Victor. Henry wants a better shirt, so Donna offers him the good stuff that's upstairs. So we'll come back to that later.
He's so sympathetic. Remember how scary he seemed in the beginning?
I feel like he disarmed himself relatively quickly.
Yeah,
but then I started getting
literally.
But then I got suspicious of him again when the bracelet thing happened. But now it's like,
yeah,
I feel like we're not supposed to be suspicious, so I'm sort of giving it up, much like with Tilly. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So we go to Victor and Sarah. They're walking to Colony House for, quote, supplies. Victor knows that Jasper's in the tunnels. We had an off-podcast conversation about whether or not he knew that. He did know that. But he wants to make sure they don't get lost. That's what he says. That's why they're getting supplies. I'm wondering if he's just going to get, like, a really long rope and, like, tie it to something outside the tunnels. Like, that was my best guess. Or maybe something to leave for a trail. I don't know. Or something to mark the walls with.
Something to make maps.
Or something to make a map. Yeah, it's something so they don't get lost. That's what he says. Because I think we'll come... Obviously, we don't get there in this episode. But, like, this was tantalizing. Because it gives a hint about what might happen when they actually get back to the Jasper mission. Which I think they will. Yeah. I mean, I expect that to happen this season. I hope I'm not disappointed.
Yeah.
Because it's like, Victor, you've been slow playing this shit since season 1 at this point. Like, can we please? Anyway, because we're about to get another classic Victor moment here. So, they arrive at Colony House, and they take in the scene there, you know, because neither one of them actually knew what happened. Because they were off doing their, like, fort thing while all this ambulance business was going on. So
it's interesting how they write this. I was kind of thinking they were going to write it in a way that delayed his reunion with his father to a different episode. Mm-hmm.
I thought so too, actually. Yeah, I was thinking it might be like a Sunjin thing where they hold on to it for a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. They do kind of delay it, but just within this episode.
Yeah, they delay it, but not too much.
So you take it in. Sarah says she'll wait outside. I guess she's like, oh, bad shit happened here. Like, no one wants to see me. I don't know for sure why she decides to wait outside at that point. Because she came in.
My interpretation is that she decides to wait outside just because people don't like or trust her. But I also feel like she's misinterpreting the scene. This doesn't really matter, but I was also wondering, like, what's going on here? And my interpretation was that people are reacting in a wigged out way because they know Victor's dad is in the house, and they know that Victor doesn't know. But she thinks they are wigged out because she has shown up.
Okay.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think it really
actually
matters.
That's why they're all staring and being weird.
Yeah.
Because but it's like not even about Sarah.
It's not about Sarah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay, so Donna comes downstairs. Victor asks who died. Donna tells him. Victor wants to go to his room, but Donna pulls him aside and reveals that Tabitha and Henry are there now. He says that's not possible, and then Victor freaks out and leaves. This is classic Victor here. He loves this, like, no, I'm running away now. Running away, even from Sarah outside. Sarah tries to find out what's going on, and Victor tells her what's going on and says they'll get Jasper later. So, I
think this is a really touching story arc. That is starting here. I mean, it was already underway, I guess, but like the scenes with Victor and Sarah, and then the scene with Victor's dad and Ethan, and then of course the reunion. I don't know. I sometimes this show, I know we talk a lot about the mysteries, but I think they do these character drama things quite well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think if this stuff was bad, the show wouldn't work. If it was just mysteries and, like, really bad...
we were talking yesterday about a show that I won't mention, that I think, or maybe there's no point in not mentioning it. Wayward Pines.
Oh, Wayward Pines.
Where it's, like, all mystery. And they made some mistakes with that show.
Including
on the mystery
with the mysteries,
level,
yeah.
But also, like, the character stuff just wasn't at the level.
Yeah.
No offense if any of you were involved in that show.
Yeah, and I know, like, some people are annoyed with that about Lost, but I also think about Lost that if they hadn't had good characters and good character drama, then that show also wouldn't have been very good.
Well, but they invented the backstory, so...
God. I wasn't going to bring it up again, but I'm glad you did. So anyway, we will come back to this later, but I do agree with your point completely. I think there is something... It almost feels to me like Sarah is becoming like a surrogate sister, like a
oh yeah,
sort of
I think I mentioned that last episode. This
Eloise.
Idea of
because they're in the fort, it's like, and he even said they came there. I guess it was already there in the previous episode, but it's continuing.
But it's intensifying, or
yeah. Okay. So Tabitha talks to her family about being in the real world. Ethan asks if she talked to Grandma, and this is the point where I was like, oh, that is their grandma. I actually hadn't thought about it before. I was like, oh, it's Tabitha's mom. I didn't really think about how that means that she must be related to the kids as well. It just didn't click for me until Ethan was like, did you really talk to Grandma? I'm like, what? Oh, right. I guess that was your grandma.
I had not thought about it. Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about it.
Yeah. It's like, they would actually
so
know
early
her.
And all this other stuff happens. That happens really early on.
It was the first episode.
Yeah.
That's like one of the first things she does when she gets out of the hospital is go get that phone and call.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Julie doesn't understand how it was possible. Jim is just happy she's back and they're all together.
Fuck you,
Jim.
Jim.
Look, who does? Come on.
I'm just happy you're back.
Sweet baby Jim. Come on.
I am just happy you're back. To assuage my own guilt.
All right, so then Jade bursts in the door.
Great physical comedy.
And Jim tries to hold him back. This is what we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. Tabitha says to let him talk. Jade asks about the tree. Ethan explains about the faraway trees. That's what he learned from Victor. Jade asks if it was the same lighthouse that Miranda was looking for, and Tabitha thinks it was. Jade wonders if she can get there without the tree. She doesn't know, so Jade wants to go to the tree. Jim resists. course. Jade asks about the bottles. Jim mentions the numbers inside. Here's something sort of helpful.
This is new.
Jade thinks it's important. Jim thinks the place is just messing with them.
Well,
see, and he has also been tormented by these phone calls.
Right. I do agree with him. So I don't agree. Obviously, he's constantly trying to restrain Jade. It's like any scene that's Jade and Jim in it.
Stay back, Jade. Stay back.
It's like everybody understands Jade's deal now, and he's not violent. So just let Jade.
Yeah.
Jade is gonna Jade.
He's just gonna do his Jade thing. It's fine.
But I do think. Well, obviously, I want Jade to investigate the numbers to try to find a pattern.
Yeah.
I also think there's a lot of validity to what Jim is saying about this place is just fucking with us. Like, maybe this is, the thing to fuck with our heads, as a scholar and a roller coaster maker.
I am surprised that you are giving Jim credit, but I do agree.
Hey, I give credit when I think it's earned.
No, I agree. You're nothing if not fair. So then Jade says, but Tabitha went home, so there's something real here.
Yeah.
It's not just bullshit. And he asked Tabitha again to go to the tree. And we will come back to that later.
Yeah, and that's another way for the writers to tell us that we should no longer be suspicious as to whether she was really in the outside world when she was...
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think that idea is over, and it's really more about how can they get back.
Yeah.
Because, seemingly the previous route has been blocked for some reason. I forgot to do my research. All right, I'm gonna have to do my research for next episode, y'all. So, I'll when I get to the point where the research is required, I'll mention it and I'll ask you,
to pause and go do your own research.
And and then you can tell us jacketjockeys@gmail.com or @jacketjockeys on Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter.
Is that how you do research? By asking people to Google and then tweet you?
Yes. That's my research. Thank you. Okay. So then we go back to the infirmary. Kenny talks to Boyd about the cabin area, and he says there's still food out there, but also something else. They heard it walking around at night. This is where he talks about that. Boyd says, we have bigger things to worry about. And they hear Randall grunting. Kenny wonders why they left him alive. Boyd thinks it's to ruin the daytime, to shatter the illusion
light of day
of safety. Yep, that's right.
I thought that was interesting because my theory was that they did it to further torment Boyd.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Boyd didn't think it was about him, since they specifically gave him the choice to leave Randall behind.
Yeah, it's funny. I want a scene where he's like, They did it to torment me, just like they did with Tian Shen. And then one of the monsters turns and is like, not everything's about you.
Yeah, exactly. Did he take that to heart too much? And now he thinks it's not about him when it really is. Anyway, I don't know.
It's a compelling theory, though. Even if it is a little bit like, but nobody was really paying attention to Randall anyway. He was kind of a lone wolf hiding in a bus. So if you want to do that, maybe do it to somebody else.
Yeah. He was convenient, though. But I see your point. And I think, did you say this earlier? That, maybe this means that we're not going to learn about this thumping thing until next season.
Yeah, I did.
I do think that's possible. I'm holding out hope that we'll get more this season.
So we got 5 more episodes?
Yeah, this is the halfway point, so... there is only so much time, and there's quite a few things that they could address with the remainder of the season, plus, whatever new shit they want to talk about. Obviously, this is a new thing, so it does count in that. But there are other new things that have been introduced. So, Elgin's kimono woman, for example. There's various things floating out there that they may go back to, and so I don't know for sure, but... Anyway, it was nice to at least hear Kenny acknowledge that it happened, since he didn't when they were there. And it was like, what are you doing? Why don't you mention this?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So then we go over to Marielle telling Christy about Nikki's death as she inspects Christy's ankle and foot. Christy tries to console Marielle about Nikki's death. She wants Christy to stop worrying about her now, but Christy says they can worry about each other. Then Randall yells and Marielle goes to check. Boyd and Kenny walk in, but Marielle shoos Boyd away, saying they should focus on the meeting and Tabitha going home.
Yeah, come on, Boyd.
I know. It's weird. It's like, maybe if I have another question about that later with the bus thing, but I'll talk about that when I get there. Okay. Oh, I do want to say one more thing here that I meant to say in the previous episode but forgot, which is just when we see the injuries here to the ankle and stuff, it's clear, I think, that the trap didn't actually pierce her skin, which I think is probably good, because I was going to say otherwise. You know, they were like, oh man, it's good the rust happened, or it would have, like, taking your foot off or something, you know, like they said some line like that. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but if there's rust in there, she's gonna get tetanus, you know.
As an EMT, I'm sure she's up on her tetanus
She is probably up on her tetanus shots. That's actually a fair point. Maybe she's anti-vax. Anyway, all right. Yikes. So
don't get political.
Sorry, no, that's actually a good point. I was thinking because they're there, they don't have tetanus shots, but she could have had it from before, and she hasn't even been there that long.
Like every 10 years or something.
Like, so maybe Victor would be in trouble if he got in a trap like that, because it's been long enough.
Yeah, as old as Victor is,
he is old.
He might be at risk for smallpox.
Oh my God, he's so old. Anyway, all right. So polio. Anyway.
There you go.
All right. So Donna shows Henry Victor's room. Henny, can we call him Henny? Henry thinks it's different from his room at home. He mentions how he sustained himself with hope for a while, but it was unbearable. He looks at some of Victor's art during the scene. Incidentally, some of Victor's art during the scene does look different, and it made me almost willing to believe that painting was Victor's, because some of this does look like paintings and not crayon drawings. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Okay. That's a deep cut.
Yeah. Henry eventually found it easier to think they were dead. Now he regrets giving up. He thinks this is why Victor doesn't want to talk to him. Donna says, give him some time. Then Tilly comes in and says they're heading to the meeting. Donna says she'll be right there, and she explains the meeting to Henry. Okay.
Nothing further.
Okay.
You're being besought by moths.
I really am. The moths love me today.
It's so weird.
So, at the diner for the meeting, Don and Henry arrive, just picking up, you know.
Wait, what if the moths are like the cicadas? Like, we saw that crow earlier.
Oh, God.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, what's happening
at the diner for the meeting? Donna and Henry will arrive. Basically just picking right up.
I really didn't think she was going to come. When this scene started, I was like, oh yeah, she's not going to show up because she's taking Jade to the tree.
Yeah. She does go.
It's a weird scene that they made.
She does go.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird the way they stage it. I'm not sure why they do it like this.
I guess one thing that it does is show their level of animosity before she has even shown up.
Yeah, definitely. It starts them off in a different way than they would have started if Tabitha was already there.
Yeah.
So anyway, Don and Harry arrive, and also there's a plane overhead. Anyway.
I hope it doesn't crash. Like, what if the plane also saw the tree in the street?
Oh, God.
And the crow was like a portent.
Boyd tries to tell them there are no easy explanations. Dale asks about Tabitha. Boyd says she's on the way. Bacta asks Henry about the ambulance, and he says that he was taking Tabitha to a park. That is his fucking line.
He gets cut off.
This is something that annoys me about this whole thing. They never mention the bottle tree.
Yeah,
once.
I know.
They don't say a damn word about it. So that added to the list with the bracelet. It's weird. It's weird that they don't mention the bottle tree because that's a fucking big deal. That's a thing that's connected to a thing that's there, and specifically the thing that they're gonna go to. Like, I just think it's weird that he doesn't mention it. Anyway, he's like, yeah, we're just going to a park. And they even talk about it later, like, oh, y'all were just doing a day trip to a park. Because, yeah, that's what he made it sound like, but he didn't clarify why they were doing that. And it's like, that's so frustrating. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So, Tabitha arrives with Jim. She wonders what to say. Jim says, tell the truth. They walk in. Tabitha talks about the faraway trees, and then we cut out, and we'll come back to that. And this is where the story happens that I really wish we got to hear, but we do not. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be weird for us to I mean, of course, I understand why you want to see it, but I also just understand why they don't give it to us.
I want to hear every word. Anyway, whatever. I understand too, but I also am annoyed. Okay. So Julie walks into Colony House as Clara exits. She goes upstairs. There's a lot of comings and goings in this episode. Anyway, she goes upstairs to Ellis and Fatima's room. She looks out the window and remembers the famous dream speech. If you remember.
I do. Not that dream speech. Not the I have a dream speech.
Yeah.
The less
Martin
famous
Luther King
one.
Jr.'s famous.
Do you feel that you needed...
She was there. Can you believe it?
Wow. She's almost as old as Victor. Do you feel that...
That was in the 90s, right?
You needed to be shown the flashback to remember that?
I do not, because I instantly remembered it.
I don't know why they felt that they needed
it's
to
weird
show
to
us
me
that again.
It's weird to me what they assume that we'll remember and what they don't, because sometimes they don't do this cut and I think that they should, and then sometimes they do it and I'm like,
it's like, no shit,
I know what you're talking about.
saw that.
It's really, to me, it's actually more powerful not to cut.
Agreed.
When you remember.
And it's also not important. Like, you're not lost if you don't remember it.
Definitely not.
And no offense to any of you if you didn't remember it. That's fine. But you don't need it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just think it's better to not give it to us.
It's different when they're doing a big mystery reveal, and they do cutaways to make sure that we're following the thread of what the reveal means.
Yeah,
you know, which I also hate, by the way, but I get why they do it, because they want to make sure the audience is along with them for the ride. But I agree with your point that, like, here that's not necessary.
Oh my god, you know, I'm thinking of the worst example of this.
Fight Club?
No.
Oh.
Well, that one's really bad, actually. No, The Leftovers.
The
thing with the Fight Club thing, because the reason that
Leftovers isn't even like that. Leftovers is like, well, I don't know what you have in mind.
Well, no, what I was going to say that I hate about it, and it's, if you don't know, I'm going to keep this brief in case you don't watch it, but you should, because it's good.
I think if you like this show, you'd probably like Leftovers.
Yeah, there's a pretty, I think, very emotional scene involving karaoke, and they have these cutaways to illustrate, and it's Simon and Garfunkel, Homeward Bound, thank you. And they show, it's really intense. It's a beautifully moving scene, except that they do these cutaways to literally illustrate lyrics, and it's the cringiest thing you have ever seen. That's not true, but it's very cringy.
Yeah, so I totally agree. It's just, I put it in a different category because it's not exposition. It's more like a literal music video where they just feel
but literal music videos are funny.
Yeah, well, it is kind of funny, but it's not supposed to be, and
funny.
that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Cigarettes and magazines, show some cigarettes, show some magazines. It's just like, no, please don't do this. What is wrong? Who thought this was a good idea? Yeah. It made no sense. It was a terrible decision, and
it was terrible.
I deeply regret it because that's from season 2 of Leftovers, and it's like, that is the greatest season of Leftovers, and overall it was really great. But yeah, they whiffed that moment, unfortunately.
But it was, that's the thing. If it was a crappy scene, then I wouldn't even mind if they made it crappier, but it's otherwise really moving.
It's otherwise a great scene. I know. They were like stepping up to the pedestal of greatness, and then they kind of tripped a little. And they landed in like second place.
Yeah, so if any of you produce television and you want to run something by me to see if it's horrible, I'm always happy to give free feedback.
Yeah, so, like, this didn't bother me in the same way. It was more just like, yeah, I remember. You don't need to...
Yeah.
And I just think, like, you know, it's just cooler for the audience that remembers to be like, yeah, we remember. And if you don't remember, too bad. You know? Like...
Yeah.
Watch the...
You don't need it.
Do a rewatch, and you'll be like, oh, that's what Julie was thinking about in that scene where she's looking out the window, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Anyhow. So, she's there to
You know, a nightmare can look like a dream, you know? Just like Martin Luther King Jr. said.
on the Washington Mall.
So
she's there for the same reason that 95% of people sneak into another person's bedroom to steal some weed.
So then she goes to a drawer and finds some of that sticky, icky, as Calvin Snoop Lion Brodus likes to refer to it as. Ooh-wee, she thought, as she found it. Then she runs into Elgin on the way down the stairs. Elgin is freaked out and comes at her with a, what do you call that shovel thing
it's
that
like
you use in a fireplace?
Yeah, I don't know.
I couldn't come up with a name for it. I'm like, maybe you know what that's called, because I have no idea what that's called.
I'm flattered that you think that I know the word for that, but no, I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just hilarious because it's like, it would be even less effective than like a hand trowel.
Yeah, totally.
I love that scene. It's funny.
It's a very funny scene.
The two of them are also a good team.
Yeah. They have like they have a thing that is, you know,
chemistry.
Stressed
they call
in
it
this
chemistry.
episode.
Yeah. So what happens then?
Okay, so but Ellis apologizes. Not Ellis. Elgin apologizes when he realizes who it is.
Yeah, but he thinks he's gonna like turn the corner and see the lady in the kimono and whack her.
And like whack her with it doesn't even make sense. It's weird. It's weird because like he even says later that she said help me last time, and so it's like it even seems like he knows she's not trying to threaten him.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. Yeah, it would be hilarious
he's just
if
freaked
he
out. Why did he stay in that house by himself?
It is weird. He didn't want to go to the meeting, and I think it's interesting. He doesn't really explain it.
Yeah.
I understand why Julie doesn't want to go, but she heard the whole story already. So anyway, whatever. Julie wants company, so he says sure.
Yeah.
And we will return to this
back up
later. Yes. Okay. So Sarah asks Victor what he's doing. He's like sitting in the back of a hatchback.
There's a verb for that.
Snow. He's tailgating in the snow. That's what I wrote here. I don't know what else you call that. That was my verb. And I invented it. So if anyone else tells you that they invented the word tailgating, you can tell them that they're wrong. And it was, in fact, Justin from such podcasts as the Lasso Down Mr. Podcast and now the eponymous Jacket Jockeys.
You're a big tailgater yourself, and I know that
Wait, is eponymous the right word?
Eponymous is when it is named for you.
Oh, yeah. This podcast is called the Justin Cast, right?
Didn't you know?
I'm sorry. All right. Not eponymous.
It's the Justin family of podcasts.
The self-same podcast that you are currently hearing. That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah, eponym, right?
Yeah, you've been trying to get the NFL and all the major networks to give you money for every time they use the term tailgate.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't seen a dime
yet.
Not
a dime.
So, if you will please donate to my Indiegogo.
Indiegogo.
Wait, what's the other thing called? I feel like Indiegogo's not really the right thing. What's the other thing called where you get money for stuff?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a thing.
Sorry, this is not interesting.
Patreon's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah, but you're
anyway,
talking about
if you'll please, I'm raising a legal fund to sue everyone who uses the word tailgating, and I'd appreciate if you could donate at the $100 level or higher. Mm-hmm. But if you do lower, I mean, I don't think much of you, but you can do that too. Every penny counts, but some pennies count more than others. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry for going on about that nonsense. So, are you ready?
I was trying to Google the thing. Yeah, let's go.
Google who invented tailgating?
No. I already know who did that, and I'm in his presence.
Okay. Okay. Oh, the shovel thing?
No, not even. Oh. The thing that the website where you go if you like don't have health insurance or whatever.
Yeah,
but anyway, let's just go.
Pass on. Yeah.
So what happens now?
Okay. Yeah. So Victor regrets never drawing pictures of his dad, and Sarah says it doesn't matter. Victor wonders what he will think when he sees Victor as he is now. Sarah tries to reassure him, but doesn't say that she knows it will be okay. Victor says she's bad at this. Sarah says he's a good person, and she wants to feel like a good person again. She thinks maybe Henry is afraid, too, of not being the dad that Victor remembers. And then Victor puts his head on Sarah's shoulder, and she leans in. It's a very tender moment.
It's very tender. And, of course, she is good at this, because, he says that because she doesn't tell him it's all going to be okay. She says, I don't know what's going to happen, but it will be okay.
But I think in this case, it actually is better to tell Victor the honest thing.
I agree.
I think ultimately he's saying that, but I think in a way it's like, no, I think she is saying the right thing.
She's saying the right thing, yeah.
And it does work. Like, eventually he's able to face it. And so, anyway.
Yeah. It is interesting, this idea that he's upset that he never drew his father because in his mind, drawing people was about remembering them.
Right.
And so that is like how his guilt is showing up.
Yeah. I never really thought about that at all. So it was an interesting, like a more specific reason why Victor's freaking out, other than like sort of the obvious of how crazy the situation is.
Yeah.
But not very often does it happen that a child goes missing and then is reunited. Like, I don't know. What has it been? 85 years later? All right. Okay. So then we go back to Elgin. Elgin has told Jewel. I wrote Jewel. I hope that's okay. Can we just call her Jewel now?
Yeah, you guys are friends.
Jules. Anyway, about the kimono lady and that she said, help me, which was nice. Hey, sharing things,
Sharing information.
It can't hurt, y'all. Elgin thinks his grandmother would say that it's an angel. Julie would trade the kimono lady for the screaming that she hears, apparently. So she's a little more specific here about what the after effects are, I guess, of being in that state. She's like feeling this screaming like all the time, but the dro helps. I hope it's dro. I don't really know that it's dro, but I wrote dro.
We've seen no evidence that it's dro.
We haven't, but I feel like dro would make sense, potentially.
Well, now that the soil is toxic, they're gonna have to
do that dro.
Actually, they should be talking about that for vegetables.
Grow it for dro. Yeah, come on.
Anyway,
let's have some dro lettuce and some dro beets and stuff.
I don't think you can smoke a beet.
Not for smoking. Anyway,
no.
Of course you can smoke a beet. You never had a smoked beet before?
Oh, now I want smoked beets.
Hey,
that sounds really good.
Sounds good, right?
Like a smoked beet tapenade.
Smoked beet tapenade. Let's do it. Anyway, okay. Bippity bop. The dro makes it better. Jewel. I wrote Jewel again. Julie doesn't think it means anything that Tabitha got out, but then she says that it happened to give them hope, but it will never let them go. Elgin says she's depressing stoned, and they have a laugh about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, it's interesting. I mean, this is a prevalent thought in the world.
Yeah, the hope thing.
What Boyd's wife said that, the fake one. I mean, I don't think that was really her, but an image of her said that to him in that chamber. I want to talk about that later too. Anyway, I'll come back to that. But anyway, it was just interesting that Julie arrives at that point from a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think there is. I don't know if that's the intention, but that is certainly the effect. So I won't deny it. But I do think it means something that Tabitha left, so I'm holding on to that. Okay, so then we go back to Tabitha continuing her story after the ambulance arrived in Fromtown. And this is where I'm like, God damn it, we just blew past the part I most wanted to hear. I'm like, yeah, I know what happened after you arrived here. We fucking saw that. We don't need to hear this. Anyway, okay. So Fatima asked Tabitha about telling the police. She didn't tell the police because no one would believe her. Henry tries to support Tabitha, but admits that he did believe her eventually. But he also adds that that was only because of like really particular circumstances, namely that his wife like imagined this place before ending up there, and Tabitha had the same visions, and no one else is going to have that reaction. Fatima, I promise.
Yeah.
That is a one-person reaction. Anyway, at this point, Akopsta chimes in and supports Tabitha. Like, I didn't believe her either, but then some rando shuts her down. I don't even know who this is.
Yeah,
I got
kidding.
no
I've
name.
never seen that person.
Some random character we've never seen before is like, shut up, you're a bad Copsta. Anyway, Boyd says, hey, everybody, that was just an accident, and...
Hey, keep going. God, stop. I gotta...
okay, sorry.
Sorry, the dog is getting tangled in things.
Yeah. She was about to go through it. And
Yeah.
I was gonna knock it. Okay, sorry, I lost my place. Right. Boyd says, hey, everybody, that was just an accident. I'm gonna bring this up again later because it seems like he's forgiven her or whatever, but it's not true.
It's not true.
He's just doing this in public. In private, he doesn't really believe this so much. Anyway, I mean, I'm sure he believes it's an accident, but he holds her more responsible than he's letting on here. Okay, Clara, who for the first time is like kind of mean, says Tabitha blew it. Jim asked them what they would have done, and Fatima says, what if someone believed you? Tabitha says someone did, and he's here now.
Yeah,
which is a valid point. Tabitha says, I'm sure you all could have done better, and storms out. Boyd tries to calm them down with the fact that Tabitha got out, proving that it's possible to get out. Totally valid point. Dale says, great, where's the tree? Boyd wants to slow them down. Bacta agrees with Dale. Boyd says, we can't just hop in the first tree we see. And that's where I'm like, that's not what the plan is here. It's a specific tree. But anyway, I'm like, why did you write the line like this? That is not what happened. She didn't just hop in the first tree she saw. It was a specific one that she was led to. Anyway, whatever. That's just my nitpicking brain. Fatima presses the issue and says, if there's a chance, what are we waiting for? Ellis agrees. Boyd tries to calm them down again. Boyd mentions that he went in a tree and ended up in a chimney underground. Kenny finally mentions that the lighthouse was the way out, which I was glad of.
Yeah.
And because the whole time I'm like, they're acting like she jumped in the tree and then she was back in the real world. And it's like, that's not what happened, right? Kenny finally mentions that, but Dale has had it and storms out to go home. There's a lot of storming out in this episode. Everybody's storming out. I just wanted to say, this is where I feel like the writers are like the people in charge of the From world, because I felt like, I was like, they need to react like this.
Yeah.
They need to be like, I want to go to that lighthouse.
Yeah.
You got out.
Yeah.
You got out, and sure, you ended up back here, but like, what if we get out, someone gets out, and you don't go do the thing you did?
Right.
You never get in a vehicle again. I don't know. It seems valid to be like, let's repeat the steps you went through. I wanted that. But then, based on where the episode goes, because I'm annoyed with Boyd here. I'm like, oh God, Boyd, just like let it go. Like Victor specifically, and this is the thing I wanted to look up. This is my research that you can remind me. I believe that Victor specifically said when he took Tabitha to that tree wasn't like the others. It only goes to the lighthouse. I believe that's what he said, and no one brings that up, and I know the reason no one brings it up, and it's because that's not what's going to happen. They want to set up the idea that Boyd is right, the trees can be dangerous, and they shouldn't jump in the tree. And they know they're going to do that, even though they had established it before that that's not what that tree was. And so anyway, this is where I feel like they're stacking the deck, and they're making them wrong, even when I feel like they should be valid. Like, their point here should be valid. There is another point I want to bring up. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm kind of pivoting here, so if you want to say something about that, please feel free.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the situation, this like mob energy that is happening makes it hard for Boyd to respond in the way that I feel like he should. So like with the situation unfolding the way that it is, I understand why he responds the way that he does, but I think he ought to acknowledge their feelings, but say, I'm not saying that we shouldn't investigate these trees. I'm saying we should formulate a plan. For instance, how would you convince people on the other side to believe you? How would you get on a path to finding this place? Is there any information that we've discovered that might help people to locate us? Because that's the other piece, and it never comes up because she just ends up back in the front place. But like, where they don't know where they are or how to find it, and certainly they don't know how to get back out once they're out there, except for getting pushed out of a tree. So, or pushed out of a lighthouse. So like, I feel like I understand, like, the mob gets out of hand before he has a chance to say, and he really wants them all to just shut up so they can continue to talk in a reasonable way, maybe get a little more information out of the people who have just shown back up, or who have just shown up, Tabitha and these two people. And do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Because like, it is logical for them to be like, oh my God, you didn't tell anybody about us? But then it's like, tell them what? And how would you make them believe it? And how could they find us anyway?
Yeah.
But people need to be slowed down and come to that on their own, because they're dealing with this really shocking experience and this really traumatic context.
So I have an idea. I have an idea for how you could try to convince people. Okay? And it goes back to what Tabitha did initially that didn't work.
Yes.
That didn't work for Henry because all she knew were mostly superficial details about various people who went missing that could have just been researched on the internet. Here's what you do. Before you go, decide who's going to go. That person needs to record extensive details about every single person who's there. Okay? Tons of stuff you couldn't possibly find on the internet, stuff that only their family and their friends would know. And if you come out of there with specific knowledge about 30, 40 people from all over the country who have all gone missing, and really specific details about all of them, there's no way they're gonna believe you kidnapped them all or it's some elaborate fake.
I 100% think that they would think that you kidnapped them all. I don't know that they would know how. That's how you get locked up and detained by the FBI. They are 100%. What is more plausible, Justin? That a human being abducts 40 people and holds them hostage for years, or that there's a parallel reality that you end up in from all kinds of portals across the country, and you can't leave? Which of those, if you were not watching this show, which of those would you believe?
I wouldn't really believe what's happening in the show. I'm just saying, I think that's the best shot.
It is
I'm
the
not
best
saying
shot,
it's guaranteed to work.
It's the best shot, but this is where I'm saying...
And Tabitha's thing could be improved. That's my point. If you had more, at a certain point it becomes more convincing, because just because you kidnap someone doesn't mean you know all this stuff about him, Yeah,
but I think if it actually works the way that Dale is obviously hoping that it will, then they don't even need anybody to come and find this place. They can just all go through the tree. but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, sure. I'm assuming that they want to take it, what I'm assuming is more like along the lines of what you're saying. They want to take it the cautious way. Let's make a plan. Let's choose someone to go. You know what I mean? Like, let's not just rush into this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You definitely need a couple of people to go.
Under those circumstances, I feel like that's the best way to try to convince people that, like, this is really a thing.
Yeah.
They could also, for what it's worth, they could also mention Victor and his father and go to the house and go see the paintings and be like, this is the thing. This is the thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, at a certain point, it's like, how could you possibly know all this stuff? It's not, you can't just research it on the internet. If you kidnap people or killed them, you wouldn't know all this stuff. At a certain point, I could see it at least having a sliver of doubt, even if obviously the general thing that is happening is pretty unbelievable. But if you give them something that's also unbelievable, at least it can have a chance of competing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I agree that it's not guaranteed to work, and it could easily just end up with more skepticism. Okay. So one more point. Do you want to say something else about that? Okay. So one more point I want to make here that is bugging me so much.
I can tell.
Do you know what it is?
No.
It's another thing that doesn't get mentioned here. In addition to the bracelet and the
other tree.
The other bottle tree. Yep. There's one more big element that never gets brought up. I don't know if we're supposed to assume it happened off screen, but it is never mentioned verbally this entire episode.
The boy in white.
The fucking boy in white.
Yeah.
The fucking boy in white. If they heard that the boy in white was there, and he's the one that pushed her out of the lighthouse, and that's when she arrived back in the real world. I feel like there should have been more. See, that's where I feel like the writers are rigging it. Yeah. It's like they dodge that point, and then Dale's obsessed with the tree because the tree is the thing that's gonna. But I feel like there's a different version of this episode where they become obsessed with the boy in white. Who's this boy in white? Multiple people have seen him.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to say he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And, like, we need to find this boy in white. What does he know? What's he up to? He seems to know a way out of there. He's the one we need to track down. Not this, like, let's go jump in a tree. Like, because, like, that was only a small part. Like, the boy in white was the essential part of that thing. And it just bugs the shit. And that's why, again, cutting out a Tabitha's story with...
He says this is the only way.
She went into a tree, come back, and the ambulance arrived in the town. And it's like, great, we just skipped every single important point that I wanted to hear about. And so then they end up getting obsessed with the thing that's, like, less interesting and less important, I think. And dodging the issue of the boy in white. No one talks about the boy in white the entire episode. To me, that's crazy.
Ready to give us any more on the boy in white.
It's crazy. Yeah, no, I know you're right, but hopefully you understand why that's bothering me.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because it's just like, how are you not talking about this? Like, isn't that a huge deal? Like, isn't that a huge potential resource? Like, anyway.
No, because he's not going to give you shit.
Maybe not, but it's like going back to Boyd's plan of, like, let's trap a monster and question him. No, trap the boy in white and question his ass.
Sure.
That motherfucker can go out anytime he wants.
Yeah.
Trap him. Trap him. All right. Anyway, sorry. I'm just that. I didn't even think when we were initially watching the episode, like.
Hey, focus. What are you doing? You need to focus.
All right. Sorry. When we were watching the episode, it wasn't bothering me. But as I rewatched and I thought about what they were saying and I knew where they were going, I just felt like this game is rigged. You know where you're going, and you're angling all of the scenes to point in that direction, and I don't think that that's the like correct thing to do here.
Whatever.
And it's like they're just dodging, you know. I agree but it's like, why are they dodging it if you know, besides contrivance? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my thing.
Yeah, it's a contrivance. A lot of writing is a contrivance.
I agree, but this is a particular kind of contrivance that I find very frustrating.
Clearly.
And this happened on Lost a lot too, where it's like they know what they want to do. Do I want to bring this up too? Nah, I won't bring it up. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna bring it up. So I just want to bring up this thing from Lost. It's not even totally connected with the point I was just making, but in season 6, there's this plot where Michael appears to Hurley, you know, as a ghost, and they're having this plan. Like, I think it's like Richard has this plan that they're gonna go out and blow up the plane to prevent the Man in Black from leaving the island. You know. Okay. That's he's like, you know, the Ajira plane is there on the Hydra Island, and he's like, we're gonna go get some dynamite from the Black Rock, and then we're gonna blow up the plane. And then Michael appears as a ghost. And this is why I say it, because it's very reminiscent of what happened in this episode, because it's Harold Perrineau, of course. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, Hugo, you got to stop him. People are going to get hurt. It's dangerous, you know? And, of course, later in the episode, you know, Alana is real cavalier handling dynamite, and it blows up, right? And it's like they knew. Yeah. They knew where they were going. But it's like, at the end of the episode, he leads them to the Man in Black's camp, who then proceeds to shove them all in a submarine with a bomb. Yeah. And Sun and Jin and Saeed all die. And I'm like, thanks, Michael. Yeah, you really kept everybody safe. You know, it's like.
But that wasn't really Michael, right? Wasn't it the Man in Black?
Well, the Man in Black did the bomb, but my point was, he was like, nah, don't do it. It's dangerous. People are going to get hurt. And then he leads them to someone who tries to kill them all. And it's like, great. Thanks. I don't know. I know that's not 100% relevant. Why are we
talking about this?
The reason why I'm bringing it up is just because in this episode, Boyd is, doing this thing that reminded me of that. Because he's sitting there going, no, it's dangerous. You don't want to do it. And because the episode's going to prove him right. Yeah. But it's not clear, to me at least, that it isn't more dangerous to not do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and I know that hasn't been proven yet, but Well,
that is my point, though, that I started with.
His alternative plan isn't necessarily less dangerous. That's my point.
He's not presenting a plan. He's just saying, trust me enough to wait.
Yeah. And I do think his point is more valid than Michael's was, actually, but nonetheless, it did feel like the writers know that he's going to be proven right, and it's not because it's the most reasonable reaction to have or whatever, you know, even if it makes sense in a certain way, for sure. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to bring that up. It's one of my lingering frustrations with Lost. I mean,
it's obvious that you're bringing a lot of frustrations together into this conversation.
It gave me flashbacks when Boyd is standing up there going, no, you're going to get hurt. It's dangerous, you know, because I'm just like, yeah, everything's dangerous here.
Yeah, well, I think we see his frustration in the end in the swimming pool scene where he's just like, you know, sort of, you happy now? Yeah. Where it's like, I'm trying to protect you. Well, no, I mean, yes, but no, what I'm trying to say is, he's like, I'm trying to protect you, and you are making it very hard to keep you safe because you're not listening to me. And people are like that.
Yeah.
And people don't really like, I mean, nobody, even kids, don't really like having people be like, shut up and do what I say in defiance of your legitimately held beliefs, because I know better than you. Mm-hmm. And that's where I started with this, analysis of this scene, is that he's not giving them something to trade up to.
Right.
He's not presenting a plan. He's not saying, this is important information. I understand why you're saying what you're saying. Let's take 24 hours to come up with a plan and then reassess. We'll meet back here in a day. You've already spent all these days here. What's another day so we can try to come up with a plan?
Yeah.
But he doesn't do any of that.
Acosta tries to suggest something along those lines later and is summarily rejected.
Well, she completely flubs it, and I think, she's so tone deaf in that scene. Because she's basically saying exactly what he said when he showed up. Like, we need some structure, we need to, and then she isn't wrong, but I almost feel like what she says is also not, my interpretation of what she says in that scene was not really what I'm talking about.
It was different from what you're saying. I'm talking
about strategy, not getting people occupied so they have their minds off.
I understand. But psychologically, I think it could serve a similar function. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's not exactly the same point. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So Ethan asked Jade why he didn't go to the meeting. He thinks it's pointless. That's the line you talked about earlier. A meeting with more than 3 people is useless or whatever. Tabitha arrives at home with Jim. It wasn't great, but Tabitha and Jade are going to the tree. And Tabitha admits that they had a point. Jim doesn't want them going to the tree, but Tabitha says she isn't going to go in. Jim takes her aside and tries to convince her, but Tabitha still wants to go. Jim says, Ethan is staying with me. I will bring this up later. This is the bone I want to pick with Jim.
Yeah.
Ethan's going to stay with me because I'm going to keep his ass safe.
Look, he's going to stay with a dad.
N'importe lequel. All right, sorry. Maybe you don't speak English. Doesn't matter which one. There we go. Right. Tabitha goes to Ethan and says goodbye and tells Jade, let's go. And we'll pick that up later. They will, of course, go there. All right. So, outside the diner, Ellis chases Boyd down. Boyd is mad about how Fatima and Ellis were responding in the diner. Ellis wants to take some chances. Boyd asks Ellis to choose who to take a chance on in, classic ABBA fashion.
Not in the ABBA meaning, though. I'm pretty sure that song is not about letting them go to their deaths.
Boyd tries to say that it was a dangerous thing happening in the diner, and now Boyd storms off.
Uh-huh. As you said, a lot of storming off.
It's a stormy episode, indeed. There's a lot of storming going on. Mm-hmm. Okay. I agree the mob thing is dangerous for sure, but anyway, whatever. We've talked about it. Okay. So, we go back to Ellis and, I'm sorry, not Ellis, Elgin. I keep reading it wrong. Elgin and Julie going into the basement of Colony House. Elgin reveals a vintage 80s clothes treasure chest. Ellis... Okay. Elgin... Oh my god. I'm getting bad at this. Elgin puts a hat on. And then Julie puts on a jacket and ties up a side ponytail. Ellis puts some sunglasses on.
They're in this swinging basement. It's so tense. Anyway.
It's funny because, nothing scary happens. It's really just a fun scene. I don't know. I think it's weird because I was expecting something the entire time.
I know. The whole time it's so tense. I just have to say that because you're just when you read these descriptions, you just read them in this, completely flat way.
Yeah.
Which doesn't reflect the the vibe of the scene.
Yeah.
So I just had to cut in because it's it's fun. But the first thing he goes down there and he's I came down here one night when I couldn't sleep. I'm you couldn't sleep. because of these terrifying visions and dreams. So you go into the basement. That is not a decision I would ever make.
It is, yeah, generally, I don't know. Maybe growing up he had like a fun basement that was his sanctuary, and
sure, let's go with that.
I don't know. I'm just making up a backstory like they used to do on Lost.
Basements are just always scary.
Yeah. Okay, so Elgin puts some sunglasses on. Julie finds a Polaroid camera and takes a picture of Elgin. It seems to work.
Anybody else totally convinced that the kimono lady was going to be in the background of that picture?
I hope you all thought it, because I did for sure. Elgin takes a picture of Julie, and then they have a playful fight over who gets to keep the pictures. And that's the end.
And it was normal and fine and nothing scary.
That's the end of that scene. It's just fun times. They're just hanging out and chilling, and, both of them have gone through some shit, and now they're just, like, having a good time, and it's all fun. I mean, I don't know. This was like the lighthearted part of the episode. It's weird. I don't know if it's going somewhere later, but for now, nothing untoward happens. Okay. So, Boyd is in the station when Akopsta comes in saying the town needs something to focus on to take their mind off things. Boyd is not convinced, saying, "We're not buddies now. You killed someone and left 2 people to die, and one of them was handcuffed in there," and dismisses her, saying, "Try not to kill anybody," and then she leaves.
It's a great line. Try not to kill anybody.
Try not to kill anybody.
I'm gonna try that one. That's like a power line.
It's pretty hilarious.
See you later. Try not to kill anybody.
Yeah. I did think this was interesting because, like, when you watch the scene in the diner, it does come across like Boyd is like letting it go, but it's like, nah, he was just doing that in public. He's definitely not let it go. Yeah. Like, I don't want any part of your shit, even though I feel like she's destined to work there eventually. I mean, she's a cop. It might take a while, but it's like she clearly has the skills to work there. So like, yeah, I know she fucked up. I said this before,
but I do think like she's not getting a lot of slack, considering how implausible it would be that anyone would take on this place with any level of reason,
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. But I think she's kind of in a minor, a less serious version of that Sarah.
Yeah.
The whole Sarah. That's not what I mean to say. Just like that place where she's kind of considered an outcast because she killed somebody, and she's gonna have to like come back from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So she leaves, of course, because what do you do after that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we go over to Fatima. She goes out to the greenhouse for some second-rate grub. Ellis comes in, almost catching her.
Top-notch rot. Let's call it top-notch rot.
Fair enough. She tries to hide it, but Ellis is just trying to understand what's going on. He clearly senses there's something up, but he has no idea what.
Yeah, I mean, she's acting really out of character. She would always stick up for Boyd, or at least not be openly argumentative, even if she had a disagreement.
Yeah. That was something going on in that diner scene that probably a lot of people didn't realize, that like her particular obsession with getting out is like based on this shit that's been happening.
Right.
And
her fear about the baby.
Yeah, and like I think people don't understand like, that like that was driving part of that, and it wasn't just the general thing of like people want to leave. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Fatima.
I want a scene with that woman. What's her name? With the like bandana, who showed up late, where she like goes up to Fatima and is like, "Wow, Fatima, I've never seen that side of you." And she's like, "Fuck off. Try not to kill anybody." Like everybody's relentlessly mean to that girl.
You talking about Clara?
Clara.
Yeah. Well, Clara was mean in this episode for the first time.
Maybe she's trying to like be part of the gang.
Like, Tabitha, you blew it.
You blew it, Tabby.
Okay, damn. Yikes. Anyway, Fatima reveals that she's been eating the rotten vegetables, and she thinks there's something wrong with the baby. She didn't quite say everything. She didn't quite mention
I've been eating rotten vegetables. Right, she's ready to confess that because it's now no longer the most heinous thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I can admit this now because like this doesn't seem so bad in comparison. Uh-huh. But it's like this is a ticking time bomb too, right? Like, she's gonna like be chowing down with some other untoward shit, and Ellis is gonna like, it's gonna be a thing, right? Like, there's no way they're gonna like, you know. I feel like this is just a step.
You never go back.
Exactly. I mean, once they've like gone down that road, I just feel like it's a matter of time before Ellis finds out and it becomes a thing that it's like, I'm feasting on human flesh now.
Feasting on human flesh. Well, we'll see. What's going on?
Okay. So Ethan leaves the house, and this is it. Ethan just walks out of the house.
Ethan walks right out of the house.
Last time we saw Ethan, Jim was like, Ethan's staying with me because I want him to be safe. And then he just fucking leaves. And I was just like, what are you doing, Jim?
I'm not a parentingologist, but I think Jim is like a little bit, there might be a gulf between his perception of himself as a parent and the reality experienced by his children.
Yeah, it seems that way, but it's hard for me to imagine like okay, you can go, but Ethan's staying with me. And then as soon as they walk out, Ethan's like, can I leave? And he's like, yeah, whatever. It's just like, what?
As long as you're not going to the tree.
I don't understand. Like, it's so bizarre. Anyway, Ethan leaves the house and talks to Henry. Henry mentions the lack of a motel. This is the thing we talked about earlier. Ethan asks him if he's Victor's dad. He confirms it, of course, and he also knows who Ethan is from Tabitha. Ethan is going to feed the animals and invites Henry to come along, and he agrees. Ethan asks if he's seen Victor. He says no, explaining the situation. Ethan says that Victor is like that sometimes. Victor is his best friend, but sometimes he gets scared and pushes Ethan away, being afraid something will happen to him, as it has to many other people he cared about.
It's not a subtle thing.
No, very much not.
Lines, but...
Very much not. But, it's Ethan. I mean, you know. I think for him it's relatively insightful. Anyway, because he's like, I don't even know how old, but not very old.
No, I just mean like it's not very subtle writing to give us this, like, this child is explaining to the dad why Victor is afraid.
Yeah.
Now you're here, now he's scared for you.
Right.
Like, caring about people makes you vulnerable.
Yeah. But I guess I sort of buy Ethan being straightforward and on the nose like that.
Totally.
So, like, I guess that's why it doesn't bother me the way it does sometimes in those scenes.
It doesn't bother.
Anyway, Sarah and Victor approach, and they see Henry and Ethan. Ethan points to Victor. Henry and Victor see each other, and they slowly approach each other. And they hug it out, and Victor says he didn't know how to get home, and Henry says it's okay. And this is our big reconciliation scene, and this is where we leave them.
It was really touching. It was really well done.
It's It's definitely a moment that's been coming since Victor's father was introduced in the first episode. And they built up to it. I think that kind of enhances the drama. If they just shoved them together immediately, I see why they didn't want to do that, basically. Okay. So we'll pick back up with them next week, I guess. Because we're coming into the closing scenes here. At the diner, Bacta sees Boyd getting on the bus. That's my bus! Anyway, we go with Boyd into the bus. He picks up some kind of carved head thing. I don't know what that was. It was weird, and they don't comment on it. I'm not sure if it means anything or if it's just like, this is some shit that Randall was carving in his spare time. I don't know. Yeah. It's weird. Anyway, Bacta shows up and asks him what he's doing. He says he's assuaging his guilt. Bacta says it wasn't his fault. Boyd is tired of not having answers. Bacta tells him about her sister trying to make things right, but feeling like she was wrong. Bacta agrees that Boyd is trying to keep people from doing something stupid, and she says that she'll have his back next time. So I just wanted to say here that how is he a sway? Like I thought about it.
Okay, so my interpretation was that he was going there to find something that he could take to Randall in the hospital that would make him feel better.
Because I'm like, looking through his shit is assuaging your guilt. But okay, what you're saying actually makes sense. I wondered
if we're going to come back to that carving, because it looked like a skull face carving kind of thing. And I was wondering if it was going to turn out to be that he's carving something that he saw while they were in that state of that suspended state.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a thing too, and they don't really. So it might come back.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way to really advance that in this episode because Randall's down for the count.
And I mean, if Boyd did bring it, I doubt Randall would enumerate for him the reasons why he carved it. So yeah, but what you're saying actually makes sense, that it was like, I'm going to bring him something. Because I'm just like, I don't get it. Why would you... Okay, anyway, good job. You saved it for me. It was also interesting that, like, Bacta has this, like, turn where she was, like, against Boyd in the meeting, but now she's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, you were right. Never mind.
Yeah, like, she actually thinks about it afterward.
Yeah. Makes her reconsider. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, like, you don't usually get that in a episode, in like a situation like this, like a specific individual part of the mob going, you know what, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Are you ready to move forward? Okay. We're 2 scenes left. At the bottle tree, Jade is trying to get some bottles down. Tabitha says there's just numbers inside. I keep calling him Victor. I really want Jade to be called Victor. I've called him Victor multiple times. Anyway, Jade speculates that they're dates. Tabitha has one that says 2659. And it's like, well, if that's a date, we're in some sci-fi shit here.
Well, we're already in some I mean, I feel like, it's already supernatural. But my interpretation of that was maybe it's February 6th.
1959. Yeah, no, that's totally valid. I wanted to give you the chance to say that because my first interpretation was like, if that's a year, because a lot of people were interpreting them as years.
Sure.
I think there was like a 1864 one, and people thought it was connected to the Civil War soldiers, for example.
Yeah.
But of course it could be 1864. I don't know. And then I started thinking about what are they going to do if it's like, some numbers that don't work for that. Like, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I was just thinking about weird scenarios.
I mean,
like 9296 or better yet 959. I don't know.
Well, it has to be a 4-digit if it's going to be a year. Or you mean like it could be, like over 2,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, that is the problem.
Or like it wouldn't be easy to make it a month, day, year thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, they don't all have... correct. Like, nothing happens from October through December.
Yeah, because you don't have the extra digit for... Or if you are in those months, you have to have a one-digit date. Yeah. It could be like 11,
No, it
2,
needs to be
6.
a 1-digit month and a 1-digit
and a 1-digit year. So then it can't happen. Anyway, whatever. I feel like your point's valid, but it also seems like they're all 4 digits, so I'm not 100% sure what that means. And when I say I'm not 100% sure, I mean I'm really far from 100% sure.
You mean you have no idea? That's one theory, and you could bend over backwards to make it work, but
100%.
It could also be something different.
100%. Yeah. But I do think it's interesting. It's like, oh, there's a 2659. Like, we have to add that to the list. Like, what's 2659 about? If it's a year, it's crazy. If it's not a year, then we got to come up with something else. Anyway, Jade is stumped, sits down, sips from his Jade flask, and mentions seeing the Ankui kids. Because I'm like, finally, that was her whole mission, right? That's another thing that I don't know if she ever talked about, because we skip over it. Did she explain why she went to the lighthouse in the first place? I'm not sure if she did. Anyway, he mentions seeing the Ankui kids and the symbol and the ceiling with the roots and stuff and the slabs of stone they were on. Sharing information. Ah, the beauty. Especially because this is specifically relevant to Tabitha. And Jade says he was afraid, but he also thinks it was some kind of clue and that like threads are starting to connect, and it's all very tantalizing, even though There isn't anything concrete here. And Tabitha says how, and of course he doesn't know. Jade wonders why someone would put the bottles and the numbers there, and this is when I say to myself, did Tabitha not fucking mention that Miranda made the bottle tree, and that's where they were going, and that's when, because I'm like, it's weird that she's saying this when Tabitha specifically knows more about the bottle tree, and it's not acknowledged here. Anyway, but he also mentions the numbers, and I don't know if the numbers were a part of Miranda's bottle tree. It's not clear to me if they were or not. If someone else added them, or if Miranda put them in the from world and not the real world, or both, or neither. I have no idea. So anyway, that's an open question. Okay, so that's the fun part. Then Dale arrives. And then Dale walked in wearing that vest, just ruining things.
Oh my god. Why do you say these inside jokes? Yeah, Dale, it's really, that scene with Tabitha, and up until this scene, up until this point, it's tantalizing and it's interesting. I don't really have anything else to say about it because we just need more.
We can't really make progress here, but I appreciate that they did it, and I also appreciate that there's information exchanged, even though I'm frustrated that the Miranda thing doesn't come up here, especially since Victor name-checked Miranda earlier. Yeah. He knows who Miranda is. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that Tabitha told Jade everything about Miranda that she knew, like at least in some general way, but she doesn't know what was in the original tree. They never made it there.
It's true. I agree that what you're saying makes sense. I'm just saying they never acknowledged it, and it was weird. Anyway, I hope that's what happened. Okay, so Dale arrives. All right, well, anyway, we probably won't have to deal with Dale too much going forward. So that's the upside to all this. If they get Dale out of there, I'll be real surprised. Anyway.
No, he's dead.
Dale arrives. Dale wants to go into the tree. Jade tries to tell him not to. Dale thinks he's going home. Jade tries to stop him again, but Dale just gets in the tree saying they can thank him later.
Yeah, with his final words.
That's his final words. Yep. Classic Dale. Yeah, and Jade and Dale had a thing out at the cabin too. So I guess in a way, it's sort of like
Dale doesn't get along with anyone.
It's true. Dale doesn't get along. Yeah.
Like Donna, only Donna.
Yeah. I don't know if Donna even really likes Dale.
No, she doesn't like him, but she understands him. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
She gets the way that he is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay. Then Bacta and Boyd exit the bus, and they hear screaming. Boyd arrives at the swimming pool. A crowd has gathered. Boyd approaches, and we see that Dale is embedded in the side of the swimming pool. Boyd apologizes to Dale for this happening, and he takes out his gun to shoot Dale, presumably, to put him out of his misery. What?
I don't think so. I thought that at first, but then I thought that maybe he was gonna try to
shoot him out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a wild way to do that, but I don't know a better way. So fair enough. Okay, so yeah, maybe he was just gonna help him out. I don't know what he was gonna do, but in any case, he doesn't fire his gun. He lowers it and holsters it
because he realizes that he's dead.
Yeah, fair enough. Then he asks the crowd, who's next? Asking if they think he wants to be the one to do this. So this is where it sounds like he's saying that he was going to put him out of his misery. At least that's how I took it.
Yeah. I mean, I was wavering because it does seem like the thing that you have to do in that situation.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, something, I forget now what it was, about something about the scene made me think that maybe he was actually still thinking that he could save him.
Yeah. I don't deny it's possible, but I do think this line fits a little better with the idea he's going to put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
Do they think he wants to be the one to do this? He's trying to keep them alive, and he can't help if they don't let him. And then Donna arrives at the swimming pool and sees. Boyd turns and looks at Dale with everyone else, and that is where we end the episode.
Yeah.
with
yeah, and it's like he's so fucking right, because of course he gets to the scene and no one has even gone down into the swimming pool yet. He's taught them all, and I know a little bit about this, they've all learned dependence on him. And he's so I mean he's sort of to blame because he's stepped into the role of leader. But also, yeah, everything is just bad. Everything's bad.
Yeah. It is interesting. I also feel like the thing about Boyd... Oh, I meant to say something about that. The way Boyd described it, I thought was interesting. That he said that he went in a tree and he came out in a chimney underground. And I thought for the first time, oh, does that mean that wasn't ruins, but actually it's like a buried place? That they're sort of transported into when they go in that area. You know what I mean? Like it's actually underground. Like, this is the first time I ever thought that. You know, because I thought it was sort of mystical or a time machine or something. But like when he said it was underground, I was like, oh, I never thought they were underground. But then when they come out, they're sort of, there's like stuff coming out of the ground. And, like, maybe it isn't ruins, but it's actually the top of a larger structure that makes up that place where they were. I don't know. It's the first time I ever thought that. I don't know if that's true, but...
It's interesting.
Anyway, I just want to throw it out there because I thought it was interesting. The second thing I wanted to say was, I feel like Boyd's line was setting us up for this. Like, that he went through a tree and ended up in this chimney.
Yeah.
That it's like showing that it can drop you like anywhere. Like, I thought from when they did the thing with the rock that it would drop you like from the sky, but it's clear that that's not the case. It can like just pop you in anywhere, I guess, which includes like in the side of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Which, is pretty horrifying. I mean, that's like one of those things of like bad time travel or whatever. If you're in the wrong place, like then you're stuck in this like, in the middle of a building or in the middle of, so like that's a pretty horrifying way to go. Assuming that Dale's dead, which I do think he is.
He's dead.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way he's not dead.
All the signs suggest that he should be dead. Because I was thinking like, going back to your gun plan, like, I was thinking, like, I guess they could try to, like, hammer him out of there, but it seems so risky. It seems like, if they start hammering away, they could easily kill him just doing that.
Yeah.
I mean,
the most logical thing is you just kill him to put him out of his misery, but,
Which is, like, and maybe we'll get that next episode, or maybe they'll just... imply that it happened, or maybe he'll just die there.
He's dead, Justin.
Or maybe they'll just leave him for the monsters. I don't know what they're gonna do.
He's dead. What are you talking about? This shot makes it clear that he's dead.
Oh, you think at the end of the episode he was dead already?
Yes, they show all the blood going out of his mouth, like this vacant. It's just because it's CGI. It's like not
okay.
But
I thought he was just still suffering.
The implication. No, he's still dead. He's dead. Okay. That is why he put his gun down, because he realizes that he
was dead already. Okay, see, I thought he like changed his mind and he was like, "I'm going to make a speech now."
Oh my God, no! He wouldn't do that.
I thought that's what he did.
Boyd would not do that.
I thought that he thought that it's not going to change much.
Then you put him out of his misery.
I want to use this moment to...
No, you put him out of his misery and then...
No, what you're saying makes more sense than what I thought. That's what I thought. But, I think you're right. I just didn't... Even the second time, I didn't think he was dead already. But, yeah, okay. If he's dead already, then never mind.
That effect looks so bad.
I didn't even realize that it was an effect.
Well, it's some kind of an effect, whether it's physical or what, but it looks terrible.
I didn't think it looked terrible, but I didn't think it looked great. I guess and I didn't read it right, so I think that's a sign that you're right, that it wasn't effective.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even interpret it accurately. Yeah. So, it's probably just a CGI failure going on there. Makes me wish for some hardy practical effects from the old days.
Yeah, I mean, you can blow it with practical effects, too. But,
oh, you can.
Yeah.
You can. But practical effects always look real because they are.
So we're past the halfway point now.
Yes.
That episode was the halfway point.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so at minute 1 of the next episode, we'll be
past
the halfway point.
Fair enough.
Sorry to be so precise, but that's my way.
You're not sorry.
But yeah, we've made a lot of progress, and, you know, when I think back to season 2, I think about how I was really surprised on the rewatch how late it was in the game when they get to the thing with the locusts and the dreams and they come for 3. That was all in the second half, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like there could be a big plot coming for the second half that we don't even know about yet. Or it could just be a development of something we have been introduced to, such as Fatima, such as the kimono lady, such as whoever that was at the cabins. You know, there's a lot of new things that have been introduced this season, so I think it's possible it could just build on something. Or even Jasper, you know. There's a lot of things hanging in the air. But they also could, because the locust just happened, right? Like, there was no sign that there was and suddenly there were locusts, you know? So I think something like that could be coming for which is hard to predict, because who would predict locusts are going to come out of the monster and then, like, terrorize the town, you know? But anyway, that did build on a thing that was from before, you know, the visions with the ballerina and the music box and all that. It did connect, so I feel like it should connect, but I still don't quite know how to predict what the big thing is at this point, you know? Because it feels like this was mostly a Fallout episode of, like, just catching up, sharing information, and, like, re-establishing certain things so that we can move forward, you know?
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the episode. I have no problem with it. I prefer episodes like this to action episodes. That's me. That's just the kind of person I am. That's what I enjoy watching. I'll take this over Monster Attack, but I'm sure we'll be back to more action going forward in the next week. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect other than, like, you know, certain things that have, like, obvious points where they can go, I guess. You know, I'm really anxious to see all those things that I just mentioned. Basically, I think probably the thing I'm most obsessed about right now is the Jasper thing. I really want to know.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see them go talk to a ventriloquist dummy and get answers. And I'm just like, how is that even going to work? Like, it just sounds so bizarre.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, I want to see them, like, stage this scene, because it's just like...
I don't think we're going to see that for a few episodes.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. For sure. I could even see, like, Henry being like, no, I lost you one time, don't go in the monster caves. You know, I could definitely see, like, various ways they delay.
Yeah, I want to see a continuation of the Jade and Tabitha stuff.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think, yeah, it's unresolved, right? The whole thing that she left
everything
for
is unresolved.
Like, the whole, you know, and I thought that Jade got the handoff from the Ankui kids, but now they've at least talked about it, and I still want to know what's going on with the Ankui kids.
Yeah.
That's, like, totally unresolved.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, I'm on board for that too, for sure. It's just, like, that's been more addressed in the show than this Jasper thing has, so I'm just, like, curious to see how they progress it. But yeah, I'm 100% on board for more Ankui.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, any further thoughts, or shall we?
I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
We'll same bat time, same bat channel.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Bats Amori.
Bats. All I can do is shake my head.
And until next time,
buzz.
buzz.